Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another episode of Second Take Cinema, coming to you from the glorious Impala Films headquarters in sunny Southend-on-Sea. I am your host, Jamie Evans, joined, as always, by my co-host, Rory Jocelyn.
Hello, everybody.
And today do we have a film that we're so excited to talk to you about. This was one of the defining movies in my journey to becoming a filmmaker and a film fan. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going all the way back to ye old year of 2002, exploring a film from one of my favourite directors of all time, Sam Raimi. It's time to give a second take to Spider-Man. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are tackling Spider-Man, the 2002 superhero movie that really kind of kicked off the current superhero boom that we are still living in 20 years later. Sam Raimi is one of my favourite directors of all time, so it was such a great experience to revisit this film. I'm so glad we did it. For anyone out there who doesn't know, this film is directed by Sam Raimi. It's written by David Coep, and it stars Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man, Willem Dafoe as the Green Goblin, along with Kirsten Dunst as Mary Jane, James Franco as Harry, Cliff Robertson as Uncle Ben, and Rosemary Harris as Aunt May, along with cameos from the legend that is Bruce Campbell and the legend that is Macho Man Randy Savage. This movie, talk about successful, filmed on a budget of $139 million.
Is that all?
Well, that's all.
I'm joking.
By today's, by a modern Marvel film, that's nothing. And it grossed $825 million. It was the first film ever to gross $100 million in a single weekend, and it was the third highest grossing film that year, I believe, behind only Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, and Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. In terms of critical response, it has, on Rotten Tomatoes, a whopping 90% rating. The website's consensus reads, "Not only does Spider-Man provide a good dose of web-swinging fun, it also has heart, thanks to the combined charms of director Sam Raimi and star Tobey Maguire." The casting was praised by pretty much every critic, specifically focusing on Tobey Maguire, Willem Dafoe, and J.K. Simmons. I think we both agree, Rory, they're all excellent in their roles.
Yeah.
There were some bad reviews, though. LA Weekly's Manahola Dargis wrote, "It isn't that Spider-Man is inherently unsuited for live-action translation, it's just that he's not particularly interesting or well animated." Giving it 2.5 stars out of 4, Roger Ebert felt the film lacked a decent action element. He said, "Consider the scene where Spider-Man is given a cruel choice between saving Mary Jane or a cable car full of school kids. He tries to save both so that everyone dangles from webbing that seems about to pull loose. The visuals here could have given an impression of the enormous weights and tension involved, but instead the scene seems more like a bloodless storyboard of the idea. Stylistically, there was heavy criticism of the Green Goblin's costume, which led IGN's Richard George to comment years later, "We're not saying the comic book costume is exactly thrilling, but the Goblin armor, the helmet in particular, is almost comically bad. Not only is it not frightening, but it also prohibits expression." The film did win several awards, including a Teen Choice Award and a Saturn Award, and was also nominated for 2 Academy Awards, one for Best Visual Effects and one for Best Sound, but it lost the Best Visual Effects to Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers, and it lost Best Sound to Chicago. Which, that kind of sucked. It was also nominated for Favourite Movie at the Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Awards, but lost to Austin Powers Goldmember.
Hang on. Who on Nickelodeon? Their children should not be
Watching Goldmember.
Yeah.
I know.
I was expecting it to be like some big like Pixar movie, like Toy Story 3 or something, Toy Story 2 at that point, I imagine, like coming out and it going, you know what, I can understand Nickelodeon kids would probably like that more than Spider-Man. Not...
I remember
Schindler's List was given a higher rating by Nickelodeon.
You say that, but I remember Goldmember. I was a kid when Goldmember came out, and it was huge.
It was huge, to be fair.
It was huge amongst my
I
demographic.
watched it and I hadn't seen the first 2 at the time.
Everyone loved Mini-Me.
Yeah, that's true.
Hey, it's me, I'm Mini-Me!
The
best cameo in any film ever.
One of, definitely.
Yeah. Hey, it's me. It's a little uncomfortable now because of the Kevin Spacey of it all, but,
Who does he play?
He's Dr. Evil.
Oh, he is.
Tom Cruise is Austin Powers.
Yeah.
Gwyneth Paltrow is Dixie Normus.
Yep.
Kevin Spacey is Dr. Evil. And then Danny DeVito is Mini-Me, which is the best one.
That is the best one. And his reveal is the best one as well.
Yeah. Hey, asshole! It's me, I'm Mini-Me!
Especially because Mini-Me is mute.
Yeah, he just kind of goes...
He doesn't really make noise at all.
He does little squeaks and things.
Does he every now and then? Okay. But yeah,
I'm sure he does.
Because he doesn't talk and then all of a sudden... And he doesn't smoke or do anything like that, but Danny DeVito's version, not only is the minute you see him, he's flipping the bird.
He's got a cigar.
Chomping a big cigar.
And he's got a machine gun, hasn't he? He's got a machine gun
he's got
as
a
well,
machine gun, which he fires in the air after he's... yeah.
Anyway, so I chose to put Spider-Man on the list. Full disclosure to everyone, we were actually going to do Spider-Man 3 first, because that's widely regarded as being the crap one out of this trilogy, and I wanted to give it a second chance. But when we came to record it, my DVD player's not working. And I only have a DVD copy of Spider-Man 3, whereas I have a digital copy of Spider-Man 1. So we swapped them around. We've done Spider-Man 1 first, but that's good. It's a good way to end a recording session. I put this film on the list because this film is very near and dear to me. This is, I do believe, and I don't think I'm misremembering, I'm fairly certain this is the first DVD I ever bought with my own money.
Right.
So I had DVDs before this, such as A Bug's Life and Bug's Life, Spice World. No, Spice World was a VHS. I think I'd only had Bug's Life.
Spice World has ever come out on DVD.
I'm sure I've seen it in like a Poundland before.
Yeah, it's really hard to find.
Oh yeah, they only did a limited amount of printing, I think.
No, it's extremely rare if it exists.
Yeah.
I have yet to find a version.
Don't worry, we're going to get there.
Yeah.
We're going to get there, baby.
Yeah, no.
I'll tell you what I want, what I really want.
I gave you Moonwalker in response, so...
Oh, yeah. But
which is infinitely a better film.
I'm very curious to see which one will actually be a better film, because it kind of sounds like Moonwalker is one half giant music video and another half Michael Jackson on crack.
Yeah.
Just making shit up.
Yeah.
And Spice World is essentially a sketch show with the Spice Girls in it.
Yeah.
And Meatloaf.
Yes.
And Richard O'Brien from the Rocky Horror Show.
Yes.
And Roger Moore.
And Richard E. Grant.
And Alan Cumming.
Yeah. In fact, let's get off of this, because the number of celebrities within Spice World.
And John Cleese.
Yeah, we should.
That's my last one.
We'll leave that for when we cover Spice World.
Yeah, can't wait. But yeah, so Spider-Man, I'm pretty sure it's the first DVD I ever bought. I remember it very clearly. I bought the 2-disc special edition. I don't think I even knew, because this is how non-involved with movies I was at this point in my life. I don't think I even knew a Spider-Man movie had been made. I think I had somehow avoided it.
Right.
Completely.
Did you like Spider-Man in general?
I liked the animated series.
Right.
So we used to have to spend weekends at my gran's because my parents worked weekends. And on Fox Kids, they had a whole block of animated superhero programming. and it had the very critically lauded 90s Batman animated series.
Yes.
Which was really dark and noirish and not kid-friendly at all, really. And that used to be paired with the Spider-Man series, which was also very well received. And then there were some other ones which I wasn't as big a fan of, like there was an Incredible Hulk series, there was an Iron Man series, and for whatever reason...
Back before Disney owned the lot.
Yeah, for whatever reason, those characters never... As far as superheroes go, I'm very much a Batman and Spider-Man guy. They're the two that I find the most interesting.
They seem to have the biggest hurdles.
Yeah, Batman, because obviously he's got no actual superpowers, and his villains are all psychologically interesting.
Yeah.
And I think Spider-Man's one of those characters who, if you don't get into him when you're young, you never get into him, because the whole point is he's really relatable, because the whole Spider-Man thing is a metaphor for going through puberty.
Yeah.
And...
And webbing in your pants.
Well, no, it literally is. That's the thing. You can literally read loads of academic papers about it. It really is a metaphor for puberty and going... It's why the most popular version of Spider-Man is always when he's still in school.
Yeah.
Like, they keep going back to that over and over again.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, I bought this film. I sat up in my bedroom and I watched it. And my God, I loved it. I loved this movie. I still love this movie. And I watched it over and over. And do you know what's funny? It's only just occurring to me now, because I've never thought about it before, that this is the first Sam Raimi film I ever saw.
Right.
Because I didn't see Evil Dead until a couple years later.
Sure.
In my head, because he made Evil Dead first, and because I love Evil Dead, I always think, oh yeah, Evil Dead, and then he did Spider-Man. But I saw Spider-Man first.
Right.
Wow.
Interesting.
How about you? What's your experience with Spider-Man?
So, I have seen this before. Like, a lot of these is ones where one of us has only seen it rather than both of us. But no, this is a rare occasion where I actually have seen it as well. Because I'm so much older than Jamie, certainly when it comes to us being children, when this came out 2002, I was already 16. So
I was 11.
Yeah. So when we're our age, that 5-year gap means fuck all. But when you're a child, the difference between 11 and 16 is quite huge. You're technically prepubescent, and I'm right towards the end of that change. But yeah, so I watched this. I don't remember if I watched it in cinemas, but I definitely saw it, if not on DVD. And I think I might have seen it in cinemas, though. And it was good. I'll be honest, superhero films have never really done it for me, though I did really enjoy the X-Men films that came out around the same time. But yeah, superhero movies have never really been my bread and butter. I don't hold this film in as high regard as you do, but it's not because it's a bad film. We'll get to, details and things as we get into the conversation. But I remembered it being a good one, and being one that seemed to sort of hold its quality a little bit more than other superhero movies, which, let's be clear, around this time, this was the starting point of where superhero movies actually started to get good. Prior to this, other than possibly the X-Men movies that came out in the early 2000s as well, all superhero movies were garbage. All of them, apart from possibly a few of the Batman films.
Yeah, Batman 1989.
I liked Batman Forever.
And Batman Returns. Yeah. I love Batman Returns, I think, might be the best Batman except for The Dark Knight.
Yeah. But that's something that you appreciate more as you're older. I really liked Batman Forever, probably because I did watch that when it came out. Batman and Robin was garbage.
It's great fun, though.
No.
It's so funny.
It's not Street Fighter level, so it doesn't work.
I don't know. What killed the dinosaurs, the Ice Age, is literally one of my favourite film lines of all time.
You've got to remember there's only one character that makes that film work, and it's Arnold.
Yeah, it's Arnold Schwarzenegger. Everything else is garbage.
Garbage.
But it's fine, because that's one more character than Batman Forever has.
No, I like Jim Carrey.
I hate him as the Riddler.
We can discuss this when we get to those films.
Just a quick thing about the Riddler. Well, that's not on the list. Do you want to put it on the list?
You can do.
One thing about the Riddler, like, that is literally one of the performances that put me off Jim Carrey.
Right.
Because my first experience with Carey was the Mask, which I really like.
The Mask is brilliant.
I really like The Mask. Then I know I've seen one of the Ace Venturas. I don't know which one, and I don't remember anything about it except Jim Carrey, so don't ask me.
Sure.
I don't know which one I've seen. When we eventually watch it, I will either go, oh yeah, I've seen this, or I'll go, yeah, no, I must have saw the other one.
Sure. Was Monica from Friends in it?
I honestly don't remember.
Oh, okay, fine.
I didn't like that, but I was like, okay, maybe it's just the character, because I'd also seen the animated show Ace Ventura, and I didn't like that. So I was like, okay, it must just be that character. Then I saw Batman Forever and was like, oh, this is all you do.
Yeah.
And I now understand it's not. I now understand Jim Carrey has actually done quite a few dramatic roles, which I'm interested in seeing. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind comes highly recommended from Dave Gardner.
Have you seen The Truman Show?
No, that is one of the few I really do want to see.
The Truman Show is very good. I'd recommend that one.
That and Eternal Sunshine are pretty much the two of his that I still want to see.
The one that I would avoid is the one where he plays is it Andy Dick? No, not Andy Dick.
Oh,
Andy
Man
Kaufman.
on the Moon.
Yeah, I hated that film.
Yeah.
But that's lauded. That's critically lauded as well. But I hate that film. So maybe that should be on the list.
I do believe that's got Jerry the King Lawler in it.
Right.
From WWE. Because he was real life friends with Andy Kaufman.
Oh, okay.
And I think they got him for the film.
Right.
But yeah, anyway, sorry, you were saying that superhero films pre this. I'm trying to just quickly, let's just think about which ones were good pre-2002.
Well, some people like the Superman films, but I thought they were all garbage.
So you got the Christopher Reeve Superman.
And it wasn't Christopher Reeve's fault, but it was just, I don't like Superman as a character.
Yeah.
There were a couple of Fantastic Fours, which I'm pretty certain were garbage.
No, they were after this.
No, there were a couple of...
Oh, you mean the one that never got released? It was so bad that they...
one in the 90s that did get released?
No, it was so bad they blocked its release.
Well, Daredevil came out about this same time with Ben Affleck, and that was garbage.
Yeah. Blade was good.
Blade was good, yes, I'll give you Blade.
Although Blade, yes, it's a comic book, but it's not really a superhero thing, is it?
Yeah, he's kind of an anti-hero.
The first X-Men is good.
First X-Men film's good. I like the second one as well. The third one is really where it let itself down.
Oh boy, yeah.
Literally just wipe out one of your main characters in 5 seconds of the film and then go, oh, we'll move on. Very much like Mortal Kombat Armageddon does with Johnny Cage.
I believe you mean Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
Ah, yes. So Spider-Man, I enjoyed the film, but it wasn't something that stuck with me. The scenes that, other than the bits with his uncle, which are good, and Willem Dafoe, because it's Willem Dafoe. The scenes of Spider-Man of this era that stick with me more so are actually from the second and third films. I knew the third film had problems, but there were elements of that I liked. And the second one, there's the image of him stopping the train and stuff like that, and Doc Ock himself seemed to be a little bit better done in Spider-Man 2. But
most people consider 2 the better film.
Sure.
I love both of the first two, and I couldn't pick between them.
No, sure. So, I mean, but Spider-Man 1 does have a lot of things that became iconic, such as the kiss upside down in the rain. Yeah. That's often referenced in Spider-Man stuff, because it's become an iconic scene. There's a lot to do. There's a lot that this film did right, but bear in mind that I hadn't seen it really since at least the mid-2000s.
Right, okay.
It's been a long time, so I was quite interested to see if it holds up and whether or not it's worth recommending now.
Yeah.
Because there's been so much Marvel, like Marvel from 2002 to Marvel in even 2022, which was last year.
Yeah.
Like, the vast chasm of difference in the brand.
Yeah.
You know, bear in mind, in 2002, Disney did not own Marvel. The comic book company was failing.
And this is not a Marvel movie, this is Sony.
Yeah, so
this is
the reason why Spider-Man wasn't in the Marvel comics, Marvel films, for a long time, because it's the copyright's with Sony.
Yeah.
Because of this film. So this film kind of started that nerfing of... Which is why when Marvel started making their own movies, they had to pick from the B team.
Yeah.
Their B team was Iron Man,
Captain America.
Yeah, it's like, these are the ones that people don't really give a shit about. And they did a really good job of making you care about them and building the brand on them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's because Spider-Man and X-Men, and I think Fantastic Four, which were Marvel's main bread and butter,
had all been sold.
Also to Sony.
Not all to Sony. Spider-Man is Sony, X-Men and Fantastic Four had been sold to
Fox.
which is why Disney's got them back now, because they've bought Fox.
Yeah.
And Incredible Hulk is really weird because they kind of own the rights to Hulk, but Universal kind of own the rights to Hulk.
Yeah, they have to do a different version of Hulk, don't they?
Basically, if it's a solo Hulk film, Universal own the rights to that.
But
if it's Hulk in Avengers or something else...
Right, so they can have the character, just not on their own.
Yeah, they can't do a film called The Incredible Hulk.
Interesting.
Yeah. So let's talk about context first of all before we get into the actual film, because for me personally, because obviously the whole point of this show is looking back and being like you said, does it hold up, etc., etc. I personally feel, and this might be nostalgia talking, that intervening time that we have had and the current state of blockbusters, superheroes as well, but blockbusters in general, I think this film is better now than it was then.
I'll agree in some ways and not in others.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, the effects of age and things like that, obviously. Yes. But it's so
Having
refreshing.
said that, the effects aren't always so good nowadays because they don't give the artists enough time to render them.
Yeah. It's so refreshing to watch a film and, one, it's not 3 fucking hours long. Like this film squeezes Spider-Man's origin, Green Goblin's origin, the actual plot of the film. It sets up Mary Jane, Uncle Ben, James Franco, Harry, etc.
Yeah.
All within 2 hours.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
But it's this consistent, self-contained story as well.
Yeah. So it's amazing, one, that it's not 3 hours long. Two, I don't need to have seen anything else to understand it. I can just go straight into it, and it's not, oh, have you seen the prior 3 Disney Plus series that inform this?
Yeah.
And it didn't feel like it was setting anything else up. There's no post-credit scene, Rory.
Yeah.
Like, that feels amazing now, because the problem, and I'm not...
In a world where there's no post-credit scene.
Yeah. Like, and I'm not anti-MCU. I like the MCU, or at least I did like the MCU. The problem with the MCU is it now feels soulless.
It's bloated as well.
It's bloated, it feels soulless, and it feels like a constant production line.
Yeah.
This...
There's no originality in it either, really.
No. Well, I want to see Guardians at Galaxy 3, because apparently that's really good.
Okay.
And it's a shame Marvel are losing James Gunn as a talent, because now he's done that, he's going to DC. But this feels like a film. It doesn't feel like a product. It doesn't feel like it was created to sell toys. It probably was, but it doesn't feel that way. It feels like you've got a filmmaker who you trust to go, right, what is your vision for this film? Let's do your vision. And I really like this. It's not a complicated movie.
No.
It's very clear, the villain is the villain, the hero is the hero. There's none of this, maybe if we sympathise with Norman. It's like, no, he's the fucking Green Goblin, he's evil. And do you know what? Sometimes that simplicity is nice.
Okay, so I want to kick off the deeper conversation on this film, getting into some of the specifics, with a massive positive, which is the script. Now, don't get me wrong, Shakespeare is not, but it does not need to be because it's comic book. What this script does very, very well, phenomenally well. Now, you mentioned in 2 hours we get all the setups of these different characters, but one of the things that I think I've spoken about on the show before, but certainly with colleagues and friends that, I talked to about film stuff, including yourself, Jamie, is modern filmmaking doesn't seem to understand the skill or care about the skill that is brevity. It does not respect your time. Spider-Man, this film, the script of this film, and thus how it's been produced and directed, it absolutely understands that time is a premium, and it's not going to sit there and go, well, it is Spider-Man, so give us 4 hours, all right? Or 3 hours, which, nowadays you could expect a 3 hour Spider-Man. But
I think the last Spider-Man film, not the animated one, the last MCU one, I think is over 3 hours long.
Yeah. So, which is ridiculous for a film like this about one character. With this script, you noted, and rightfully so, that by the time we were at the 20-minute mark, I think it was.
I think it's earlier. I think it's like 10 to 15 minutes,
Well,
the Goblin has already been created.
Yeah, I think it must be 15. I remember you saying 20. But either way, within that brief period of time, bear in mind that's not even the end of Act 1 yet. Peter Parker's been bitten and has got his powers. The Green Goblin's been gassed and has got his powers. So we know who our main hero and villain are, all fully set up and ready to go. They're not perfect yet, because they're still learning their roles, as it were, but they are there, already established. In a modern MCU-style production, that would probably happen at the 40-minute, maybe hour mark. Probably hour mark nowadays, because it's so... The thing is, we've got that set up, and we're not sitting there going, whoa, calm down, I don't understand what's happening. You understand perfectly what's going on. And within the next 5 to 10 minutes from that, we've got all of the setup and the death of Uncle Ben, what happens with Aunt May. You have a full understanding of his relationship with MJ, and how that's now affected by Harry starting to date MJ.
And it's clear what the theme of the film, it's clear what the main journey Spider-Man's going to be on is, which is his burning regret that the last conversation he had with Uncle Ben was Uncle Ben saying, look, I know I'm not your father, then stop trying to be. And fair play to Cliff Robertson, God bless him, he's not with us anymore.
Yeah.
The hurt, he doesn't have any lines, you can just see the hurt in his eyes.
Yeah.
When he snaps at him.
Beautifully.
And then obviously you get the bit when the wrestling promoter doesn't pay him properly, and he goes,
does that look like it's my problem?
Yeah, I failed to see how that's my problem. And then he gets petty and does that back and lets the robber get away.
Yeah, and it's the robber that kills his uncle.
Yeah,
so
and it's immediately clear, okay, I see what the arc is going to be here.
Yeah, and it plays out perfectly. Now, there are things in this story that I don't like as much.
Okay, cool.
But overall, the structure of the film is perfect. The details, there are a couple I might argue. One of the ones that springs to mind that I am sitting there going, well, that's kind of a bit pointless then. And it was something you mentioned, I think, when you were looking through some of the reviews, is the moment where the Green Goblin has been shown, knows who Peter Parker is, and then gives him the choice between either saving MJ or saving a truck, like a carriage
cable
full of
car,
kids. Yeah, cable car full of kids. And Spider-Man picks both and gets both. And it's like, to me, that kind of feels like that. And I understand maybe it's not the genre or the type of genre film to do this, unless it's Batman, which would have probably gone through with it. But the whole point, except for Batman Forever, actually, where they do the opposite, so maybe I'm wrong. But there's Batman Forever doesn't count. But yeah, is the idea that he's been given a clear choice of how he's the hero. And somehow, essentially, I think the thing is it kind of cheats its way out of giving him the choice by him just choosing neither. But not setting it up that he's outwitted the Goblin. He just has the option of doing both anyway.
I get what you mean. I think, and I could be wrong here, I might be defending Sam Raimi on I don't know what I'm looking for is. I think, yeah, it's partly the fact that this isn't the right film for that. Spider-Man has always been lighter than, say, Batman. Because a few years after this, we get a similar thing in The Dark Knight, don't we?
But that's
where the Joker
so
forces him to choose between Harvey Dent and the Maggie Gyllenhaal.
That's it, yeah.
What's her character's name?
I can't remember her character's name. She's not from
Rachel. But the Joker's switched them, hasn't he?
Yeah, so he actually chooses her.
So he does. He chooses to be selfish, Batman does.
Yeah.
Which I think is the key difference between him and, say, Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Now, what I seem to remember reading once, and I might be wrong, was that because Raimi knew that if this film was successful, he was doing a trilogy, I think.
Yeah.
I think what he'd kind of
probably
planned...
contracted for that.
But I think what he'd planned on doing was this was all part of a larger arc, which was Spider-Man gets away with the choice in this one.
Yeah.
He gets to have his cake and eat it too because he saves both. And that then kind of makes him cocky. And then in the third one, he was going to be faced with a choice again, I think, between Gwen Stacy and MJ.
Yeah.
And he wasn't going to get away with it that time.
Yeah.
And it was going to be sort of this impactful, just because you got away with it, once. You don't get it. But the studio stuck their oars in and were like, no.
Yeah.
This isn't that kind of film. It's got to appeal to everyone.
But then you
Characters can't die, etc.
Sure. That would mean that what happened in the third one is it basically drove down the stakes, as well as the fact that they overfilled it with enemies. But that's a story for when we talk about that film.
Yeah.
I will say, though, while I would have preferred that the choice element of that scene actually had an impact that mattered, I will say that it didn't ruin the film. It's not, it's just something where I was like, it's more that I would have preferred that they did something different. But again, I completely get it's not the genre for it generally.
The way to fix that, if you really wanted it to be that he doesn't get away, let's say there's no big arc, let's say we're just making the first film, you obviously can't have Spider-Man sacrifice the kids. You absolutely can't.
No.
Like, that's it. Your franchise is done when he
Spider-Man
lets children
just
die.
Children die for his own sake, yeah.
I also understand why, if you're Raimi, you don't want to kill MJ, because MJ is the lowest lane to Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So here's what you do. You don't do MJ in the first film.
Make it
You do Gwen Stacy, who canonically is killed by the Green Goblin anyway.
Yeah.
In the comics, Goblin throws her off a building, Spider-Man goes to save her, and just as he grabs her, she hits the floor. So he just... That scene would work, wouldn't it? He still tries to save both.
Yeah, so he saves the
and
kids
he's
first.
a fraction of a second too late.
Yeah, and that would have made more impact, I think. Certainly with the Uncle Ben side, it would have given him more reason to... basically hold hard to what his uncle said, because not only did just to shark the guy did he let basically the guy go who kills his uncle, but now because he's now forced into making hard decisions, and he lost someone from making a hard decision, it would make more sense when he meets MJ in the second one, and they get to the ending, and she goes, "Oh, I'll be your girlfriend. Basically, let's get on." And he says no, actually, because he's lost someone that close before.
Spider-Man 3, from memory, I haven't seen it for a long time, it does a lot to damage the trilogy retroactively as well, because you then add Gwen... So in comics canon, Gwen Stacy is his girlfriend while he's a student. And it's not till he goes to college that he meets MJ.
Sure.
So you should have done that. Have Gwen Stacy in this one and she dies at the end. Instead, you wait till he's with MJ... then introduce Gwen Stacy and do like a love triangle.
Yeah.
But also...
which makes him look like a right dick.
Yeah. And also... Well, that's where all the Bully Maguire memes come from, isn't it? But also... I'm fairly certain in the third one, it kind of undoes his origin story, because it's revealed that Sandman killed Uncle Ben. Meaning that the fact he let that robber go...
meant nothing.
Basically didn't impact anything.
So he kills that... But he kills that guy.
Yeah.
Goes to kick him out the window, but the guy trips and falls out the window anyway.
Yeah, that's a grey area, innit? Where it's like he technically doesn't kill him.
He didn't kill him, but he was going to anyway.
To be fair...
he was saved by fate, basically.
Writers do that all the time, because that's what I hate about the ending to Batman Begins.
Right.
When Liam Neeson's like, "Oh, you can't kill me, but I don't have to save you."
Yeah.
And he just, like, back grapples out of the fucking
that
train.
wouldn't hold up in a court of law, I don't think, because actually it might do.
Ra's al Ghul was causing the train crash, wasn't he?
Yeah, that's true.
It's almost suicide, technically.
Yeah, I know, it's hard, because you're not... By law, it might be different from state to state and country to country, but as far as I'm aware, you're not... If you see a crime happening, you're not under any obligation to stop it.
No?
So I don't believe that's the case, because otherwise you'd be arrested if someone mugged someone in the street and you just watched. That doesn't happen. But in that case, because it's just you and them, and you were there, like Batman was there on purpose, if he doesn't save him because he's got the ability to, then I think that would make him an accomplice to... not actually murder, but it would be manslaughter.
Yeah. Just by being there, Batman's breaking the law anyway, because he's a masked vigilante, isn't he?
Yeah, but it would definitely be manslaughter, I think.
Yeah.
Because he had the option to save him. He could have saved him, should have saved him, quote unquote.
So let's talk about the cast here, and we're not going to start with any of the main ones. Let's talk with James Franco. Let's start with James Franco.
Yes.
Because James Franco is a controversial figure. nowadays. This was the first thing I ever saw him in, and I think this is very early in his career.
Yeah, same for me. I think this is the first thing I ever saw him in.
He's really good as Harry Osborn.
Yeah, he plays the character well.
You really believe that he is this insecure rich boy who's desperate to earn his dad's approval, but also kind of wants to just be a normal guy like Peter.
Yeah, that comes across really well. And the other thing as well is you kind of feel his pain when his dad eventually meets MJ and then basically just calls her a slag openly when he goes into the lift to broom her.
Do what you need to do with her and broom her fast.
Yeah, you can feel his pain in that as like, because now he looks like a shitbag, but he's actually done nothing wrong himself. But because it's his dad, he automatically looks like a shitbag as well.
Yeah.
But then he doesn't help himself when he then shouts at her because she's having a go about his dad.
Yeah,
It's like,
but that's
to be
'cause he's-
fair, mate, your dad was being a right felon.
But he is a single parent household because we don't know what exactly happened to his mum, whether she left Norman or if she's dead or what. But we understand that his mum's not in the picture. And of course, he does kind of rush to defend his dad a bit, doesn't he? Like, he says that thing like, my dad's a great man. If I'm lucky, I'll be half of what he is, sort of thing.
He still idolises his father, even when he knows that his dad at that moment is being wrong.
Yeah.
The one thing that I do get confused about is how Peter Parker doesn't recognise that Willem Dafoe is the Green Goblin until he reveals his face at the end. Because, like, he gets the cut on his arm, the cut on his arm shows through, and it's only when Willem Dafoe sees that and he realises, oh shit, that's the same cut I gave Spider-Man, and he suddenly clocks it, and it's just like, oh, no, I've got to go, and that's when he starts acting weird and then slags off MJ, and and then only after that point does the Green Goblin suddenly know where Peter Parker lives and know that he has an arm. Yeah. It's like, and yet somehow Peter, when he's revealed at the end, and Peter Parker's like, oh my god, it's like, mate, who else was it gonna be? Like, cool.
Okay,
I always found that a little bit odd thematically, because he's meant to be intelligent. He's something of a scientist himself. So I would have thought Spider-Man would have picked up on the cues.
Yeah, that's one thing that is minimised in this film compared to the next two Spider-Men, Andrew Garfield and Tom Holland. Yeah. With Andrew Garfield and Tom Holland, they really focus on the genius level intelligence.
Right.
Especially, the way Spider-Man is set up in the MCU is he's basically Tony Stark's protege.
Yeah.
Which is why some people refer to him as Iron Man Jr. disparagingly. Because, in his first film, he doesn't even have the normal Spider-Man suit. He's got the Iron Spider suit.
Yeah.
But anyway, okay, let's talk about Kirsten Dunst as Mary Jane.
Yeah, she's good.
I think she does really well. She's a great actress anyway, Kirsten Dunst. Yeah. She's been in so many great things. I think over the course of the trilogy, the problem for her becomes that she is always the damsel in distress.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that does make these films feel dated. Raimi was basing all three of his Spider-Man films, he based off of the 70s era of Marvel Comics.
Right.
Because that's the era he grew up reading. It's why he never wanted to do Venom, because I don't think Venom turned up till either the late 80s or early 90s.
He was definitely by the early 90s because there was Spider-Man and Venom video games.
Yeah, and Venom was
Drive and the
huge.
SNES. Yeah,
he
Venom
was
massive.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Even people who didn't like Spider-Man were wearing the black t-shirt with the white spider design on it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Punisher. There's loads of people who wear Punisher t-shirts without actually liking the Punisher.
Yeah.
Because
it's
usually
cool
those
design.
people are idiots.
It's a cool design, that like the skull, depending.
Oh yeah, the problem with the Punisher is it's been co-opted by several right-wing organisations now.
Yeah, it does make it a bit awkward.
Which I think Marvel keep trying to sue them, but as soon as they sue one, another one starts using it.
Yeah.
But anyway, he notoriously doesn't like Venom as a character,
right,
and didn't want to ever do Venom. And the studio were like, yeah, but Venom is like the most popular villain in Spider-Man. You have to do Venom. And Raimi was like, but he's just evil Spider-Man, really.
Yeah.
Like, he's got all the same powers. Do you know what I mean? Like, that Raimi didn't find that interesting, personally.
Yeah, it would have been interesting, I think, and obviously the studio executives weren't thinking this way. They damn well should have done. But they would a few years later, was they should have just had someone like Tim Burton, maybe, do a Venom series that runs alongside Spider-Man, and then whoever wanted to do it, probably Tim Burton, because as you say, Sam Raimi's not particularly interested.
Yeah.
Do a crossover movie.
Yeah.
That's what they would do now. They go, well, let's set that up. Unless you're DC, of course. In which case they go, we'll leapfrog all of the setup and just get to the payoff.
I would have absolutely loved, and I heard a rumour that it was true, and I don't know how true it was. I would have loved to see Raimi do Mysterio.
Yeah.
I feel like a villain like Mysterio, whose whole gimmick is illusions, that just lends itself so well to Raimi's horror background.
Yeah, I do find it weird that Raimi didn't have an interest in a dark Spider-Man, only because his stuff tends to be dark, but I guess it's normally dark with a comic twist, and it's the comic twist that Venom generally lacks.
Yeah. And I kind of get it. Like, I don't mind Venom. I personally prefer Carnage. Because Carnage is just more psychotic.
Yeah.
But they usually come as a pair anyway, don't they? Venom and Carnage tend to be together.
Well, it was Spider-Man and Venom. Maximum Carnage was the game on the Mega Drive and the SNES.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the rumours I heard for Spider-Man 4, if it had happened, and then we'll go back to Spider-Man, was A, Mysterio, played by Bruce Campbell, which would have been fucking amazing.
Yep.
But I also heard, and apparently they got as far as contract negotiations with this, was actually John Malkovich as the Vulture.
Right.
Which is the character that years later Michael Keaton would actually play in the first MCU Spider-Man film.
Right.
And Michael Keaton does a wonderful job, as I'm sure you can imagine he does.
Michael Keaton just does all this shit, doesn't he? Because he's Batman, then he was in
Birdman,
Birdman, and now
he's the Vulture.
Vulture.
He's just winged heroes.
Yes.
You notice he's always got wings.
Yeah.
He can't not have wings. He's really good as the Vulture.
Pelican Man, starring Michael Keaton.
Honestly, he is really good as the Vulture.
Yeah.
Because what they did right with the first MCU Spider-Man, it's not a global world-ending disaster. It's like this first one. It's a small, self-contained thing. And Vulture, actually, you can kind of see why he's evil. It's not even that he's evil as such. He doesn't want to kill anyone. It's that he got screwed over by Tony Stark, which destroyed his entire business. And in order to keep his employees able to look after their families, he starts stealing Stark technology to sell on the black market.
Right.
The problem is, I think it's all the MCU Spider-Man films, the villains turn out to be people who are pissed at Tony Stark but take it out on Spider-Man instead. And it's like, dude, we killed him like 5 films ago at this point. Like, come on. How many people did Tony Stark piss off?
Apparently everyone.
I mean, I get that he's an abrasive cunt. Anyway, let's go back to Spider-Man. Let's go back to the cast. Let's talk about Tobey Maguire.
Yes. So
because
this is probably the best role he's done since The Wizard.
The Wizard, where he has no lines.
And he's in it for 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And he's wearing a pink shirt and he has a mullet. And he's like 5. Anyone who hasn't listened to VGMP, first season we did The Wizard. Tobey Maguire's in it for 5 seconds.
Do you think he knew back then that while he was standing on that set of that awful film,
just staring
greasy,
at nothing?
Do you reckon he knew one day he'd be fucking Spider-Man?
He probably dreamed, as all children dream. But yeah, probably while he was standing on that set. I mean, he didn't do a lot of good acting on that set. To be fair,
his career,
he was like he was only an extra or something.
It's surprising when you think about how ridiculously successful the 3 Spider-Man films were. Because even that third one, which didn't do well critically, it was a massive financial success.
Yeah.
The only reason 4 didn't happen was
the critical reaction.
No. They turn around, because studios don't give a fuck about critical reaction, as long as it makes money. Why do you think they kept churning out terrible Resident Evil movies that all got terrible reviews?
Are they not highly critically acclaimed?
No. Oh. Basically, they turned around to Sam Raimi and they went, Spider-Man 4, 1 year from now, or 2 years from now. And he kind of went, no. He went, I'm exhausted. I'm not happy with the third one. I need to take my time. And I think he said it'll be 5 years before you get Spider-Man 4. And they went, unacceptable. No, it's over. You're done with it. But here's the best bit. It then took them 5 years to reboot it with Andrew Garfield.
Yeah.
So they may as well have just done Spider-Man 4.
Yeah.
Anyway, it is surprising Maguire didn't have a bigger career after the Spider-Man films. And now I've heard that's because he's actually quite difficult to work with, apparently.
Right. I mean, he was in Tropic Thunder.
As a cameo, really.
Yeah, it was hilarious. Satan's Alley. But... But yeah, no, I mean, I don't know anything about how easy or difficult he is to work with. But I figured... I mean, maybe I haven't put much thought into it, but I figured it was probably because he was typecast as nerdy Spider-Man. Yeah. So what are you going to do with that as you get older? He didn't seem to do much. Maybe this is my ignorance talking because I haven't followed his career. I don't know. Like a lot of people who start off as like, and I know he wasn't a child when he did Spider-Man per se, but like the child actor syndrome where you play a very iconic character when you're younger. Usually the way to break out of that, like the guy who played Harry Potter, Daniel Radcliffe and things like that, the way they break out of it is by doing lots of sort of very avant-garde and very different and weird stuff. That they kind of break... like, and what's his name who played... He was the Edward in Twilight.
Robert Pattinson.
Yeah, they do like sort of very off base and sometimes very hard, much more harder,
weird choices.
Yeah, because that way it's like, look, I'm not just this pretty boy thing from this film.
I do think I may have spoken out of turn because I think basically Maguire went into doing more indie drama type films, which I think had always been his bread and butter anyway. And I think he's in a 2013 film called Prisoners, which I've never seen, but is apparently amazing. It's a Denis Villeneuve film, and it's got I'm sure it's Hugh Jackman, Jake Gyllenhaal, and Tobey Maguire. I'm sure it is.
Interesting. I haven't heard of it before. Sounds like one to watch.
We'll have to try and watch it sometime. Okay, let's talk about the MVP of this film. J.K. Simmons. Okay.
He's fucking great.
Let's talk about J.K. Simmons and then we'll talk about the MVP of this movie.
Yeah.
I mean, this is there are very, very few roles in history that are done so well that one actor becomes synonymous with that role forever.
Yeah.
J.K. Simmons has done that with J. Jonah Jameson.
And the thing is, usually to get that status, you have to be a main character.
Yeah.
J. Jonah Jameson is not a main whatsoever. No. He's a side character in a couple of scenes.
Yeah.
I think he's got 3 scenes in total.
Yeah.
And they're not long.
All amazing.
Yeah. And they're not very long, but literally from the off, he comes straight out the gate at full power, and like he just hits you like a train. You're like, this is the guy.
It's the speed that he hits the dialogue with. That scene when he's got Robbie, he's got the lady, I can't remember her name, and then Ted Raimi keeps popping in as well, and he's having 3 different conversations, but not taking a breath.
But you can
and he's literally like, tear up page 1, put that on page 7, do that.
What's good about it though is that you can follow who he's talking to and when and how, with very subtle movements and very bold, because he says it boldly, but it's not to the point where it becomes just pointless gabble.
Yeah.
It's very much pointed. You know where he's going each time, which
meat,
can be very
I'll
difficult.
Send you a nice box of Christmas meat.
Well, because it can be very easy with a character like that with a lot of different dialogue happening to multiple different characters at once, but just from one position, and he's mostly just sat for these 3 scenes. It's very easy for that to just get lost and just become a ramble. You do that. And it doesn't. You know what he's doing, where he's going, what he's saying, why he's doing it.
Bring me pictures of Spider-Man.
Yeah. And it's... Yeah. And what was an interesting choice in the script, certainly, with J. Jonah Jameson, is that he's shown to be a very immoral man for the most part. But when the Green Goblin essentially is going to kill him unless he gives up his source for the Spider-Man photography, he holds the line and says, I don't know, he sends everything by mail. Which is a lie. Because I think Tobey Maguire's in the room at the time. Yeah, so he could just give him it's that guy. But he doesn't, because that's his line in the sand. Yeah. And it's interesting
Jameson, you slime!
Yeah. But it's interesting that he has a line in the sand, despite the fact that prior to this, he just seems to be a complete immoral dick.
Yeah.
But there is a line in the sand he won't cross.
Yeah.
And it's to give up his own sources.
Yeah.
And that's something you said to me, because I haven't seen the new Spider-Man films. I haven't seen them since this trilogy, to be honest.
Yeah.
That is something that is different in the new Spider-Man films.
Yeah, he's more immoral in the new ones. He's more of an Alex Jones type character.
Yeah.
Which I get, like, this version of J. Jonah Jameson isn't really relevant anymore, because who the fuck reads newspapers these days? Okay, we've put it off long enough. Let's talk about the man of the hour. Let's talk about Willem Dafoe.
Long Schlong Dafoe.
Willem Dafoe as Norman Osborn / the Green Goblin.
Yes.
I love this performance.
Yeah.
I think it's brilliant.
He was the right man for the job.
He was the right man for the job. I think you can tell how iconic the performance is by the fact that when the MCU 20 years later did their big Spider-Man crossover, No Way Home, where they brought back Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire, and they brought back pretty much the villain. I think they brought back a villain from like each film. So they bring back Green Goblin, Doc Ock, Sandman, the Lizard from the first Garfield one,
Yep.
Electro from the second Garfield one. I can't think of the sixth one. There might not be six. There might be five.
Yeah, it
let's
might not
say
be
there's
important
five.
because it's the MCU.
Yeah, let's say there's five. When they did that 20 years later,
Yeah.
Willem Dafoe as Green Goblin is the one they pick as the main villain of the film.
Yeah.
They're all in it, but the main villain is undoubtedly and very clearly Norman Osborn.
Because if you've got Willem Dafoe as your villain, don't make him a side piece.
Don't get me wrong, even with what's his face, who's an amazing actor as well.
Doc Ock.
Yeah, the guy who plays Doc Ock.
Oh,
Alfred Molina.
Yeah.
Alfred Molina's amazing in the film too, obviously.
Yeah.
But because of the way Doc Ock's story ends in Spider-Man 2, where he kind of becomes good again, you can't have him be there, because it kind of then undoes Spider-Man 2, doesn't it?
Yeah.
This is a great performance. Everything about it works. The physicality of Dafoe works.
Yep.
When he first gets gassed, the way he jumps out of the glass case.
Yeah.
Already in Goblin mode, like he jumps out and he's like baring his teeth at Dr. Strom, and he's like, he's like, back to formula.
Yeah.
The way he switches between being Norman and the Goblin, like you say, when he realizes that Peter is Spider-Man at the Thanksgiving dinner, and you just see the switch go in his head.
Yeah, it's very good. And something else that this to give credit to Sam Raimi's direction for was knowing how to not overplay, because there's a few scenes where he's basically just talking to himself. Between the two different versions of himself, the Green Goblin and Norman Reedus. I can't remember his last name, Norman Osborn. Basically, during those scenes, he changes it up each scene, so it's never the same each time. But one of the things that Sam Raimi does very well, and I think because of Evil Dead, you get a very clear understanding that he understands symbolism very strongly. Evil Dead is full of symbolism, and he brought that to this version of Spider-Man, certainly with the scenes with the Green Goblin. When Norman is talking to himself, there's the time where he's talking to himself in the mirror reflection, and then the next scene he's talking to the Green Goblin. Norman is sort of small and terrified by the fireplace, talking to a chair.
Yeah.
On the chair, he's hung the Green Goblin mask. And the Green Goblin mask isn't animated, it's not doing anything, it's just a lifeless prop, which is what it literally is.
Yeah.
But he understands that you don't have to overblow it by trying to CGI the mouth moving or having him play himself again against himself. It's enough. We now understand that the Green Goblin is a separate entity within Norman.
Yeah. That is gaining power.
Yeah, and the mask is part of that, is the symbolism of the Green Goblin. So you now don't need Norman to be doing the Green Goblin as well. You can just allow that back and forth to happen, which would otherwise look out of place, but it's earned throughout the build-up of the Green Goblin character.
Yeah.
A big props to Sam Raimi on, getting that right.
Yeah. And all the memes associated, just to prove his pop culture reference, all the memes associated with this film come from Willem Dafoe.
There must be one where it's like, I'm something of a meme myself.
I think there is, yeah.
There must be.
There's obviously the I'm something of a scientist myself.
Which is the actual line from the film.
And there's also the, you
popular.
Can't do this to me.
Yeah.
I started this company. Do you know how much I sacrificed?
Yeah.
So let's talk big set pieces then, starting with really Spider-Man's origin, which is the big wrestling scene. So
is that a big...
I think I want to talk about it.
Yeah, you can
because first of all, you've got... So, there's a little cameo. There's a few cameos here, actually, in the wrestling scene. The first is Octavia Spencer, who is the lady signing people up at the entrance. And she kind of warns Spider-Man not to do it. She went on to be in The Help, Hidden Figures, The Shape of Water. She's had a really good career. He goes in and basically it's one of those old Carney tricks where it's survive 3 minutes in the ring with this wrestler named Bonesaw McGraw.
Yep.
And you win $3,000. And we get our next two cameos, which is Sam Raimi's long-term collaborator, Bruce Campbell.
Yep, he's the announcer.
As the announcer, who gives Spider-Man his name, because Peter wants to be called the Human Spider, and Bruce Campbell's just like, that fucking sucks, kid, and announces him instead as, in a reference to the comics, the Amazing Spider-Man.
Yep.
He got my name wrong. And I love this scene because this really shows off that old-school cartoon style of comedy that Sam Raimi is so in love with, that was in all the Evil Dead films. As he's going to the ring, the Flying Dutchman, who was the wrestler before him, literally is being carted off in a stretcher, going, "Oh God, I can't feel my leg." Bonesaw is our last cameo. So Bonesaw McGraw is played by the late great Macho Man Randy Savage.
Yes. You always. I love the way you do this to me. You introduce this guy, like in this case, Rando Savage, and I'm like, it's a wrestler I don't really fucking know.
No, but we've made plenty of jokes about Macho Man.
You've
Randy
made
Savage.
plenty of jokes about Randy Man Savage.
Macho Man Randy Savage.
Randy Man Savage sounds better. That was his porn star name.
Randy Man Savage. Oh,
I got you. You're going nowhere. I got you for
bonesaw
3
is ready.
minutes. 3 minutes of playtime.
3 minutes of a Slim Jim.
Honestly, his voice hurts to do.
It does, yes. It's very raspy. I'm guessing he smoked a lot.
He must have done, or like been hit in the neck or something, like, because I'm pretty sure he doesn't put it on. I think that's his voice.
Yeah.
Otherwise, why would he do that? I actually don't know. Maybe he just thought, maybe he got the part and thought, fuck it, I will just play Macho Man Randy Savage.
Yeah, because he is basically Macho Man Randy.
Yeah.
Macho Man.
Macho Man Randy Savage. Jesus Christ, is it a tongue twister for you?
I don't know why it seems to be a problem. I think I'm tired.
Oh.
Nacho Man.
Oh my God, this is getting worse.
That's the Mexican version.
So this is So this is a cool little scene with lots of wire work in it as well. And this was a good thing about this film. Yes, there are CGI effects in it, but it's still early enough that we're still doing wire work, which I really like.
Yeah.
There's a really good bit when he's fighting the Green Goblin in the burning building. No, I think it's in the end fight where he kicks him. Green Goblin sort of goes flying, and then he pulls him back.
Oh, that's it. That is in the fire.
It is in the burning building.
Yeah, it's in the burning building. Because the final fight, I believe, is airborne mostly.
Yeah. Well, it's in that building, isn't it? That abandoned building, and he pulls the wall down on top of him.
Oh, yeah. No,
Yeah.
it's definitely in the burning building he does the combo, but the combo was cool.
Yeah, I like that. But it's clearly wire work. You can tell Willem Dafoe's on wire, and I love that. I miss wire work in films, Rory.
Yeah, wire work in films is great.
So your first real big set piece is the Unity Day Festival.
Yes.
Which is the first real appearance of the Green Goblin. Like, that's his coming out party.
Yep.
When he swoops past the board and he's like, "Out am I?" and throws the pumpkin
Which
bomb that
I've
disintegrates them.
Him saying "out am I" and you saying it's his coming out party makes it sound like he's coming out as a gay man.
Okay.
Out am I?
And this is the real piece of evidence for the fact that him and Norman are separate people, because he nearly kills his own son in this scene.
He doesn't seem to give a shit either.
Yeah, he doesn't realise, really. I don't think it even registers to him that Harry is there.
Yeah.
Which you could choose to interpret as it's because the Goblin doesn't care about Harry and the Goblin is separate from Norman.
Yeah.
Or that Norman is so focused on his hatred for the board
that doesn't matter to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I quite like this. It's so nice, again, because I'm used to modern Marvel, where everything's fucking laser beams, fucking animated, pew, 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 and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Spider-Man and the Goblin, yeah, they're flying around because of the webs and the glider, but when they fight, it's actual fist-to-fist fighting.
Yeah.
And some of it feels really impactful, like when the Goblin crashes Spider-Man against that window, doesn't he?
Yeah, that
and then smashes his head through it.
You could feel that. That was good. When it does wire work and when it does fist-to-fist fighting, this film is brilliant. However, with these big set pieces, all the big set pieces, a lot of green screen and a lot of there are some elements of CGI and they're quite ropey.
Yeah,
certain I'm sure they weren't as bad looking in their day, but
no, they were amazing. I remember when it came out, they were amazing.
But they're very ropey. It's a bit like watching Lord of the Rings again, though, because when I watched first Lord of the Rings when it came out, it's like the graphics are insane.
Yeah.
And then you watch it now, you're like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's so funny, isn't it? Because the effects don't age.
It's just our appreciation or understanding of them ages.
Yeah, which is fascinating.
Yeah.
For the most part, I think this is still watchable. None of it's so bad that I sit there going, I cannot watch this. The worst parts are, there's a couple of times when, for me, I think the worst animated effects are when Goblin jumps onto his glider and transforms. For me, the time the CGI is at its worst is whenever you get the Goblin jumping on his glider, because it'll be actual Willem Dafoe in the suit jumping.
Yeah.
And then it will transition to the animated Goblin.
Yeah.
And you can kind of...
You can very much
see that.
Yeah. I think a lot of the main issues are CGI people don't work. They barely work now, let alone in
they definitely didn't back then. There's a couple of...
The other one, though, is that anytime they're doing any green screen, which I actually think they were doing blue screen on, not green.
I think they did do blue screen in this,
it was
because you can't green screen the Green Goblin.
Yeah, maybe that's why. But even bits with Spider-Man...
you can't blue screen Spider-Man. Do you know what? I think I remember watching the documentary, because I had the 2-disc special edition, and I did watch all the documentaries. I think they orange screened this.
But that's strange, because there's orange in the human skin tone.
And it was one of the first films to do orange. Oh, okay, I might be wrong.
I don't know. You might be right. It just seems an odd choice. But
maybe they did green for Spider-Man and blue for the Goblin.
Maybe. But the point is the main issue I have with it is like they didn't key him out, like anything out very well. Right? Whenever it comes to keying, you can always see the seam.
I have to say I didn't notice that.
I did.
The effects I noticed more were, like you said, whenever it was a CGI person.
The CGI was worse, was more evident, but there were a couple of times, like there's one where Spider-Man's running through a broken up building, might be the fire scene, but there's a bit where he's running through this building and it's at the side and it's trucking alongside him. And you can see, like, the fuzz around him from the keying out.
I know that bit. No, that's near the beginning.
Yeah.
I didn't think that's what I was. I thought that was a CGI person again.
Oh, no, I think that they were keying around him and he was actually running.
Oh, right, I thought it was a CGI person.
But you could... I mean, you would, if it was CGI, you wouldn't have that fuzz around him.
Right.
That's what kind of gave it away. But then again, it could have been your copy... I don't know. It could have been your copy because there was a couple of elements of macro blocking on the version we watched, which I don't know. That's basically where, certainly in dark areas, usually it shows where there's not enough digital information. So all of these, you get these big squares of dark patches and like block color.
Yeah,
that happened a few times. So it might be that it's just a bit of a low resolution file, but.
Yeah. So just in terms of other set pieces, then the burning building's great. I really like that.
That was really well done.
I do remember I remember it being a fairly big moment when he throws all the pumpkin blade things and Spider-Man's like twisting through them. One thing you did point out, and you're totally right, Sam Raimi is very as and when he wants is when the spider sense works.
Yes, it comes on whenever the plot requires it.
And to be fair, that's not just Raimi, that is Spider-Man in general.
Yeah, because otherwise he becomes invincible.
Yeah, in theory, Spider-Man should never be hit unless it's something that can move quicker than his spider sense, which nearly nothing can. An interesting detail from Avengers Infinity War is when Thanos snaps his fingers and they all start crumbling to dust. Peter, no other Avenger does this. Every other Avenger kind of just goes, oh no, and crumbles to dust. Peter drops to the ground, shivering, and like Tony Stark's holding on to him, and he's like, Mr. Stark, please, something's wrong. Realistically, that's because they wanted the emotional moment.
Yeah.
But in logic, in canon, that's because his spider sense can sense it coming.
Right.
So if his sense is powerful enough that it can sense the blip coming, the snappening, as I like to call it. I love that. I always call it the snappening. Yeah, you're right. He'd be invincible. Nothing is fast enough to get him. So that's always been an issue.
I'd forgive it for that. Because with the superhero film, you're going to have to make some caveats to reality, guys. Yeah. There's going to be a few things where we're going, well, that doesn't really work. Yeah. But you know what? Fuck it. It's how much you'll accept the breaking of reality.
Yeah. There's only really two more set pieces to talk about. The first one is, of course, the iconic upside down kiss in the rain.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful. It's so...
moist.
Yes.
Because it's raining, guys.
It's raining, man. We've talked about this before. About how modern movies, not even just superhero movies, modern blockbusters are devoid of passion and heat.
Yes.
Because even when they do love stories nowadays, they feel sanitized.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is about modern actors. I don't know if it's the way they're directed, or if it's because everyone's scared of getting accused of something. I don't know. Hardly any modern actors have got chemistry with each other. I'm sorry.
I think it's how it's directed because, here's something that's a bit difficult in a modern idiom. Do you like how I use that word? In a modern idiom, the problem we've got with trying to put in any sort of genuine romances into films is if we're going with the... I hate to use the term woke because it's not a term I use. I hate the term. But it's a term that people are aware of and understand what I mean. When we're looking at the current iteration of how we write films, the reason, there's worries about power dynamics, things like that.
Yeah, of course.
In this regard, it could be seen that Peter Parker / Spider-Man has a power imbalance in his favour. Because he's Spider-Man and he's able to save her, he could also set up ways that she could be killed just to save her and use that to his advantage, which would make him a scumbag.
So is Spider-Man supposed to stay single forever?
Well, this is the problem, isn't it? It's like this isn't my suggestion of things. This is what I think might be the reason why there isn't as much chemistry anymore. There's two reasons. Number one, I think, is the worry of a power imbalance influencing a bad decision or coming out as in, well, hang on, these two are kissing, but he's her boss or she's this or he's mostly to do with men rather than women, I suppose, in a power imbalance, but... whatever. There's always that worry that it might not read right, and the other reason, and this second reason might be connected to the first as the reason why they do this second one, and it's something you've mentioned before, is when they play romances now, they don't play sweet romances, they play them with comedy stuck in, and it's a sarcastic comedy, so it's like... he fancies her and she fancies him, but we're going to dance around this, but not in a way where they're like, the passion is still growing and they're like pulled towards each other magnetically.
We're also afraid of being sincere with our feelings now.
Yeah, which is ironic because we're meant to be in a period where we're starting to learn more about mental health, starting to learn a lot more about, people's feelings and being able to be open, while at the same time our media seems to be shrinking its ability to explain or discuss emotion.
Like the modern Marvel films, and again, like I said, I like Marvel.
Yeah.
But and I like Chris Hemsworth. I think Chris Hemsworth's a very good actor. Him and Natalie Portman have zero chemistry in those Thor movies.
Yeah.
Robert Downey Jr., who is, of course, an amazing Iron Man. You want to know the one dark spot in his Iron Man films? No chemistry with Gwyneth Paltrow. At all.
Yeah.
Like, you just don't buy it. And it's the same in all of these modern MCU movies. For some reason, I don't know if it's just that Disney don't want romance, but the romance, if you don't want it, then don't even do love stories.
But then most of their films prior have all been love stories, realistically.
It's so weird. But anyway, this is a great moment. It's really beautiful.
It's a reason it's stuck.
Yeah.
As a meme and been referred to so much.
Yeah. And it's this lovely mutual respect between them because he trusts her to take the mask only so far. She does only to, like, she doesn't try and cheekily
see the rest of his face.
It's beautiful. And of course, our last big set piece is the finale.
Yes.
Which starts on the bridge, the Brooklyn Bridge, I believe it is, and then moves over to an abandoned building.
Yep.
You've already pointed out you do have a little bit of a problem with the stuff on the Brooklyn Bridge.
Yep.
And I kind of get that.
It's not enough to break the film.
No. The bit where all the New Yorkers start throwing stuff at the Green Goblin, that really worked for me the first time I saw this. It works less so when he repeats that exact same trick in the second film.
Right.
I don't know if you remember the second one very well, but there's the bit on the train after Spider-Man has stopped the train and they carry him into the train and Doc Ock comes to get him. To be fair, they kind of do a twist on it because Doc Ock comes to get him. They all stand on the train. They're like, no, fuck you. And Doc Ock just like shoves them aside with his tentacles.
You know, it would have been better if in Spider-Man 2 they literally went, no, fuck you.
Yeah. I like the bit in the abandoned building as well.
Yeah, I thought that was good.
It's kind of cool to see a superhero film that isn't a CGI laser beam in the sky.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know this,
or
but
aliens.
that basically became, for a good 10 years, every superhero film was some sort of CGI beam shooting into the sky.
Yeah.
That's Avengers 1. It's Man of Steel.
Yep.
It's Four Stick. It's loads of them. This is quite grounded. This is just two men beating the shit out of each other.
Yeah.
And Spider-Man looks rough as fuck. He looks like he's been taken to the limit, you know?
Bear in mind, he's got so many powers. He's still something of an underdog.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, he's not a full underdog because we don't get a lot of information about what powers Green Goblin might have. Most of it, he seems to be, he has a suit and a glider.
Yeah,
but
and he's stronger.
Yeah, which is why he can take the punches and deal them out. But it just seems to be power he has rather than anything else. And then
he can't shoot webs or anything like that.
No.
It's just the strength, the agility, and then all the tech he's got.
Yeah.
So without the tech, he's kind of disadvantaged.
He's basically a bodybuilder, but without the big body.
Yeah.
Though he is ripped. I mean, Willem Dafoe
Willem Dafoe's
very
in
much
great
in shape.
I really like when he pulls the wall down on top of him.
That's cool.
I don't think you do that enough in Spider-Man movies anymore. Is him pulling, using the webs to pull the environment around him.
Yeah.
And what you get, obviously, is I like that it doesn't come down to a big battle. It comes down to a conversation where we complete the arc of the Goblin basically tries to manipulate him.
Yeah.
And he goes into the Norman Osborn voice and he's like, I've always been like a father to you, Peter. Be a son to me now. And Peter stands and he says, no, I had a father. And his name was Ben Parker, meaning Uncle Ben.
Yeah. I would have loved it if I have a father, his name is Uncle Ben.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the Goblin has sneakily remote piloted his glider behind Spider-Man.
And brought out the spikes.
Yeah. But this is a point where the spider sense does work.
Yeah, which didn't work the whole rest of the fight.
Yeah, and he backflips over it. And I love, this is such a Sam Raimi thing to do. You get these quick cuts of Spider-Man flipping, the glider flying forward, Norman Osborn, and then you just get this cutaway for a second of Norman Osborn's face as he goes, oh. That. That's such a Raimi thing to do, and I love it. And this glider fucking shanks him, and it's not... people always go in his stomach. It is not in his stomach. It is too low for his stomach.
When it hits him, it's higher,
Yeah.
I think it moves.
Right.
Because and I think that's just a mistake on the production side.
Yeah.
When it hits him, it clearly gets him through both his kidneys.
Right.
But then when it from the distant shot where you see it all happen, it's clearly through both kidneys. And then it gets to it goes closer, and the rest of the scene happens, and it's through dong. It's clearly through dong in those shots.
You can see like the 6-pack of his suit.
Yeah.
And then this is a good, 2 inches below the bottom of the 6-pack.
Yeah.
Which would be your dick.
Yeah. So you see, his death was he got his Schlesinger removed.
Yeah. And he...
But it's a good way of being hoisted by your own petard.
Yeah, exactly. Killed by his own weapon.
Yeah.
Which I think is how all the villains are beaten in the Raimi one. Doc Ock is beaten, he has to drown his own creation, doesn't he? And he dies with it. Sandman turns good, I think.
Sandman turns good, but he doesn't really get a full arc because of how that film gets ditched.
Yeah.
Venom just disappears.
Oh, Venom, it's the sound thing, which is from the comics. I do remember that.
But
and then they grenade him. They pumpkin bomb him. New Goblin pumpkin bombs him, doesn't he?
That's it.
Because someone's told me, and I don't remember seeing this, but this is, again, a Raimi thing to sneak in. Because if you remember, basically, he traps Eddie Brock in the middle of those poles, smashes them all so that they're ringing, which causes the Venom suit to come off of him.
Yeah.
Spider-Man pulls Eddie Brock out because he doesn't want to kill him, he just wants to kill Venom.
Yeah.
But Eddie Brock's like, no, I need the suit, man, because he's addicted to the power. And you get a slow motion shot of Eddie Brock jumping back in just as the pumpkin bomb comes in.
Yeah.
And the Venom suit is just about to reattach to Eddie when it blows up. Someone's told me, I don't remember seeing this myself, but I've not seen Spider-Man 3 in a long time. There is apparently there's a split second, a frame, gory shot where you could see all Eddie Brock's skeleton. All his flesh is being burnt off by the pumpkin bomb.
Right.
And there's a frame or two of skeleton.
Interesting.
And that's a Raimi thing to sneak in as well, isn't it?
Yeah, just so quick that you wouldn't notice it unless you were freeze framing.
But anyway, obviously Norman Osborn's last lines are, "Don't tell Harry."
Yep.
And that does set us up for what's going to happen a lot in the next film, which is this.
He delivers Osborn's body to his house and is seen by Harry.
Yeah. Who, of course, goes, "What have you done to my dad?"
Yeah, he then disappears, and then basically Harry's like, "I'll get you for this, Spider-Man.
I'll get you next time."
He doesn't do it that cheesy way. I just wanted to do that.
And Willem Dafoe obviously does come back for the second one for a cameo.
Yeah.
There's also a famous, I don't know if you've seen it, there's a famous video from the set of Spider-Man 2.
Right.
Sam Raimi is a notorious prankster.
Yep.
And there's one day where it's when they're doing the scene where Doc Ock, it's where he becomes Doc Ock, really, when he does the sun experiment for the first time.
Yeah.
And he's got the tentacles and he's doing the, "Stay back, everyone, don't worry, I can stabilise this," that bit.
Yeah.
There's a bit where Sam Raimi, basically Willem Dafoe visited the set, and Sam Raimi goes to Alfred Molina's trailer and he's like, "Alfred, I've got to tell you something. We're letting you go. We've decided it's not working out. We've actually hired another actor to replace you." And Alfred Molina, of course, is like, "What? What? What did I do wrong? I don't understand." Anyway, he takes him to the set, and they've put Willem Dafoe in the Doc Ock arms, and he's doing the scene.
Right. It's a horrible prank.
Yeah. But Alfred Molina laughs, and him and Willem Dafoe shake hands, and
no, that's fair enough.
which is always good to see. Yeah, he's a notorious prankster. That's half the reason Bruce Campbell goes through so much punishment in the Evil Dead films.
Yeah.
It's just because Sam Raimi likes torturing him. He also does it. He gets Tobey Maguire, I don't remember if it's this one or Spider-Man 2. I think it's Spider-Man 2. There's a bit where Tobey Maguire's at college and he drops his books and he's bent down to pick them up, and a load of people walk past him and are clipping him with their bags, and one bag just smacks him in the face like, "Riyadh, that's Sam Raimi." Yeah. But anyway,
final thoughts.
We end with the Danny Elfman score. I want to shout out the score as well because I really like the score to this film.
Yes, I unfortunately this came out a bit too soon because in 2006, I think, there was a Spider-Man theme tune made, and released. I got it on DVD for a friend of mine from Japan. Really
God,
good thing.
here we go.
Yeah, so it's called Spider-Man. It's by an artist called DJ Ozma, which is DJ, and then Ozma is Ozma. Look it up.
Don't.
It's really good.
No, it's not.
My friend was a massive Spider-Man fan, and when I went to Japan, it happened to coincide with the release of this. I saw it. The next day I went to a music thing. I got the special edition DVD, which showed you how to do the dance that's in the music video. And I was actually quite disappointed him and his comrades didn't do it for their wedding.
This is the guy with his butt out, isn't it? He's got like assless chaps on.
No, DJ Osmer's in the white Spider-Man suit. He's got like a full suit on, but with like.
I feel like someone had their ass out. Though. Someone definitely had their ass out in that video.
You say someone, everyone but DJ Osmer.
Right, that's it.
So the music video is in a nightclub, two massive groups of guys. One side, and all they're wearing is, I think sometimes they wear masks, but other than that, they're wearing, just eye masks, if that. But other than that, they're wearing just black thongs.
That's it.
And it's all men. And they've got, like, either a Spider-Man coloured spider on their crotch, or they've got the black Venom spider on their crotch. And, like, they're split into the Venom and Spider-Man sides, and basically the dance that they do is just, they're thrusting each other. And I was like, I saw that and I was like, my friend Craig needs this.
Yeah,
so
no one has ever needed that in their life.
So I bought it for him.
This is a great theme, the Danny Elfman one.
Yeah, but it's not quite DJ Ozma.
I think this film has definitely held up. It's dipped in some respects, with CGI and whatnot.
Yeah.
I still very much think this is a great film. I think it's a masterclass in pacing a film.
Yes. The pacing on this film is perfect. It never outstays its welcome, but it never goes so fast that you can't keep up.
No.
It's a perfect amount of pace, and script-wise, I'm very happy with this. Again, with the only caveat being, I wish the choice he has to make on the bridge actually made a difference.
Yeah.
But other than that, I've got no faults with the script. Yeah. The CGI is ropey, and some of the green screening hasn't held up well over time. So the visual effects really need retightening up. They'll never do that now, but you know what I mean. There's some
4K restoration.
Well, if anything, that would just show up the problems even more.
No, redo all the effects.
Well, I suppose you could go back to the original source material and re-edit it. They did that with Blade Runner, Yeah. When they went to do the Blu-ray and then the 4K, what they did for Blade Runner was, because you get like these black squares around different elements where they were edited together and shrink, and you wouldn't notice it on a VHS tape, but you will notice it on sort of a high def or a 4K screen. So they went back and rescanned all the original source elements and recomposited the special effect shots. Yeah. And the benefit is, where it's not CGI, it's all practical models shot on plates. You can do that really quiet. Quickly might be the wrong term, but it's actually a lot quicker and a lot easier and a lot cheaper than re-rendering stuff in CGI.
Yeah. Not to be pretentious about it, but I actually do disagree with people going back and doing stuff like that. Because I personally feel, and this might just be me being a grumpy old man, I kind of feel like your film has to stand as a testament to the time it was released. So it's okay. It's okay that the effects don't look great in Spider-Man anymore. We are 20 years past the time when they were top of the line special effects.
So I want to defend my position here in that I'm not saying that it's right to go back and re-edit your films. Yeah. There is a difference. So, like, what I was going to say Luke Besson is clearly the wrong guy. George Lucas did with the Star Wars original trilogy, where he added CGI crap into it. I'm very much against that. Yeah. Because your film has to stand as it was. But with the Blade Runner option...
They're almost historical documents.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But with the Blade Runner one, I don't disagree with it. And here's why. They didn't add or remove anything. All the stuff they did was the original elements put back in the same order. They just got rid of the bits where you'd see the edges of each plate.
Can you just shut that window for me?
Sure. That I'm fine with. The reason being that you've not actually changed the film.
Yeah.
So that is a different thing. That's the difference I would consider a restoration rather than recompositing or reimagining your film.
Yeah.
or remix, I suppose, would be the musical term. Don't remix the shit, but I'm happy with a remaster.
Yeah.
I don't have an issue with that. They did it with Star Trek Next Generation, because when Star Trek Next Generation was done, they filmed it all on cinema film. But in order to edit it, they scanned all the cinema negatives to VHS, then edited it all on VHS, including all the visual effects. So when it came to doing an HD version, it couldn't happen because the only complete episodes were VHS. But they still had the original cinema reels. So to do the HD remasters of them, they basically went back to the original cinema negatives, had to do the editing process again, but kept it as much as possible 100% to the original series, the way it was edited, even if there was mistakes, things like that. The only differences were anything that was CGI rendered was lost, but there wasn't a lot of CGI in the Next Generation, so there was only a couple of things that had to be like created from scratch, which was minimal. But like where it was mostly model work, they rescanned all the model stuff and put that back in. So using the original model work, the original plates, they didn't refilm anything. They just used the original materials that existed. Yeah. So that's more of a restoration or a remaster. I'm fine with that. But yeah, that would be my caveat. It's the difference between a restoration and a remix.
But yeah, that's Spider-Man from 2002, directed by Sam Raimi. I thoroughly enjoyed watching it again. I'm very glad we chose to give it a second take.
Yeah.
And thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed listening to us talk about Spider-Man. And we will see you next time.